George Stephanopoulos is down in Lower Manhattan today. George, I don't know if you heard a little earlier me raise this question, which was actually raised by ABC's Jackie Judd as we look at these areas down below and the video of where the towers used to stand and where is all the rubble gone. And have you been able to, is there any way you can answer that question?
I'm sorry, Peter, I didn't get the question.
Okay, I apologize. Jackie Judd and several other people keep asking us, when you look at where the towers used to stand, there is surprisingly so little rubble. Where did all the rubble go?
It's a very good question, Peter, and I have asked some people who've been doing some of the rescue and recovery work this morning. If you look behind me, you can see the very remains, the skeletal remains of the World Trade Center. And one volunteer, Robert Gerlinski, explained to me the reason there's so little rubble is that all of it simply fell down into the ground and was pulverized, evaporated. Now, I should say, though, for the last several hours, there's been a steady stream of dump trucks and other very large vehicles carrying out debris.
Right now, Mayor Giuliani is speaking. Let's listen.
It's going to take some time, and we're bringing generators in. The governor made available to us a group of generators that we've moved to Randall's Island, and we will be using them in that area of the east side that needs generator power, because they may need it for quite some time. We were able to move 120 dump trucks out of the city last night, which will give you a sense of the work that was done overnight. So some of the debris has already been removed. More of it is being removed, and it'll be done by barge all throughout the day today. The subway system is operating.
120 dump trucks cart debris away from Ground Zero.
Where's the other one?
Now the second one.
I didn't know one fell down.
There's a building.
Right, that's why it's like so dark. I don't know.
Because it's still burning.
There's like ambulances everywhere. Look at this. This is a major thoroughfare where we are.
Garbage trucks.
I know. Are they getting bodies out?
This is like soil and greenery.
It does. And this is a major corner.
See, they roped it off to bring these things.
That's what's going on.
This is gonna, yeah, they're probably to get debris out.
It's wild out here. They just keep coming. Look. It doesn't stop. There's more. I keep thinking it's at the end, and it's not.
It's being dispatched somewhere, right? Maybe it's being dispatched from down here.
They had 2 million tons to clear.
Bringing out small debris like the size of your fist and big, huge chunks that are, 20 feet long, pieces of steel, and it's a slow process. Like, we haven't even made a dent in it, and that's been 2 days we've been in there.
Sometimes it's very helpless in there because it's so overwhelming. You look around, you move one little pile of stuff, and it's taking you almost 4 hours to move a little pile.
With all the steel and intertwined, a shovel would just bounce off of one piece. If it hits one piece of steel, it's just going to bounce off. The only way to do it was to force your hands down under there and lift it up and put it in a bucket. That's how most of the buckets were filled. When you made it to the absolute front, there was usually about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 guys. That was a circle of digging, that was a circle of prying, of ripping, of cutting.
They've begun using heavy equipment to haul away the wreckage of building number 7, regardless of the fact that it's still burning. At the canteen, we hear some of the truck drivers complaining that some of these girders are so hot they cause the beds of the dump trucks to crack and split open. The rescue operation has changed course this evening. They have abandoned an ocean of 5-gallon buckets in favor of heavier equipment. There are also hundreds of gas cylinders to fuel the torches of iron workers who are cutting down whatever failed to collapse.
I've been here all day. My colleagues have been here now for, pushing way past 48 hours, and every 3 or so hours or so is a new take on the surrealism of this scene. These are our first shots from this particular vantage point. obviously that first bit of pile of rubble, which is quite high.
110 stories at ground level.
110 stories at ground level.
If you get a shot, you'll see the antenna that was on top of the tower. It's at ground level.
How many stories would you say that is?
That was probably 2.5 stories, maybe 3. Maybe 3.
That's the highest point.
That was the highest point. It's hard to believe.
The rubble pile is less than 3 stories high.
Just again, a heaping pile of rubble that now workers, their rescue workers, have carted well over 300,000 tons of out of this area. Well over 300,000 tons of.
There were 16 acres of debris to pick through. At first, bucket by bucket, because authorities feared that heavy machinery might endanger survivors buried in rubble. In the first 24 hours after the attacks, more than 260 pieces of heavy equipment and 240 trucks converged on the site to sift through the debris.
For the FBI, Ground Zero is one enormous crime scene. Locating the 2 black box flight recorders from each plane is priority number 1.
By September 13th, the crews settled into a grinding 24/7 schedule that allowed them to remove 70,000 tons of debris a week. And daily, 75 trucks laden with debris rumbled through New York, one of the world's busiest cities.
120 dump trucks.
It was beyond discouraging. It was even hard to understand.
Most of the debris that damaged any of the other buildings was pretty much contained within about a block or so off the main plaza area of the World Trade Center.
Why there is so little rubble on the ground, and we'll reconnect with him as quickly as we can. And because, as we watched it so many times on television in the last 25 or 26 hours.
How many times are you going to show those goddamn towers coming down? Don't you have any respect for the people who have family and friends in those towers? Do we have to keep watching them fall down? I've watched them fall down 50 times already. When are you going to stop? Please stop.
Much of the material that makes up the structure of the building was simply pulverized as it fell upon itself. Now, it is also true, we're fairly certain we can say, that a good portion of it was driven, at least of the lower stages of the building, was driven into the ground. And I suggest this because we've talked to any number of people involved in the rescue operation who have found individuals or tried to locate individuals who are 40 feet below the surface. So there's a lot beneath the actual ground level that we are not always we are just simply not able to see from our perspective.
When the twin towers of the World Trade Center collapsed, they created a whole new landscape. What looked like a field of rubble was merely the surface of an underground world of caverns, shafts and passageways, hundreds of feet deep.
It was like building a bathtub, only it's a bathtub in reverse. The purpose of this bathtub, 800 feet long, 200 feet wide, 70 feet deep, was not to contain water, but to keep water out.
Beneath the Twin Towers lay what engineers called the bathtub, a giant basement as big as 8 city blocks and more than 75 feet deep. It contained 7 levels of parking lots, maintenance offices, mechanical rooms, and the path, a commuter rail system running under the Hudson River from New Jersey. A 3-foot-thick concrete retaining wall called a slurry wall kept the Hudson River and groundwater from flooding into the basement. When the towers collapsed, most of the floors that had held the slurry wall in place were destroyed.
By early afternoon on September 15th, this Piper Navajo Chieftain aircraft, equipped with lasers, gathered data from a vantage point 5,000 feet above the disaster site. Then the New York Office for Technology, the agency overseeing the operation, called in an expert to turn the raw data into useful maps.
We got a call saying, you're the only operational environment in town. Get your staff together and start making maps.
For more than 7 years, Dr. Sean Ahern has been mapping every square inch of New York City from the sky. Suddenly, his work was a matter of life and death. To generate a LiDAR map, an aircraft equipped with lasers flies over the site. The laser fires at the ground surface. The data collected will allow scientists to calculate the distance from the plane to the particular topographic feature being measured, accurate to within 6 inches in height.
It became a particularly important tool because at the wavelength that the laser fires, the smoke is transparent. So this was the first unimpeded view of the entire site.
For the first time, the actual scope of the disaster was visible, and firefighters could better orient themselves.
The north tower is right here. You see, you just have that shell of the facade there. And here's the south tower is right here. And there's the center of where the south tower stood.
And finally, Ahern's team was able to calculate the extent of the damage at the site. They estimated there would be more than 1 million tons of debris to be removed. They would later learn that their estimate would be far too low.
I mean, 500,000 tons of debris, and yet we need to be dignified in the process.
These estimates were based on observation. The article goes on to say, quote, "For a more accurate assessment, the city and the Port Authority turned to Leslie E. Robertson Associates, one of the structural engineering firms involved in building the Trade Center. The firm took out the original plans and quickly started adding up the ingredients of the World Trade Center floor by floor. After some rounding, the very rough figure of 1.2 million tons of debris was born."
The 1.8 million tons of debris
we've removed about 750,000 tons of debris and steel. Still have another 650 or more thousand tons to go.
We're putting milled asphalt, to kind of build a road and flatten certain areas, put dirt over the debris so we could bring trucks in and whatnot. Dirt over the debris, dirt over the dirt over the debris.
Everything was reduced to the finest state. It basically looked like mountains of dirt.